Coming up on this Thursday edition of Daybreak, police in Paris mount a massive manhunt for 3 terrorists who shot dead 12 people at the office of a French satirical magazine. North Korea says it will not return to talks with the South until Seoul stops activists flying propaganda leaflets across the border. The South says Pyongyang should come to the dialogue table with no strings attached. Plus, with oil prices sharply down, the Eurozone crashes into deflation for the first time in over 5 years. Daybreak begins now. Hello and thanks for joining us. To our viewers around the world, it's 6 a.m. on Thursday, January 8th here in Seoul. I'm Mark Broome and you're tuned in to Daybreak. And we begin with the latest from the carnage there in Paris. Still at large are the 3 suspected gunmen behind the mass murder at the office of the French satirical magazine Charlie Hebdo, which had thumbed its nose at radical Islam in the past with cartoons that were designed to be controversial. 12 are dead and around 20 others injured, some critically. We're going to connect live to our Eunice Kim for the latest. So, Eunice, French authorities are scrambling to locate these gunmen who attacked with extreme speed and brutality.
That's right, Mark. And French President François Hollande had himself come out to say that there had been several terror attempts on this magazine, Charlie Hebdo, and the paper's editor, Stéphane Charbonnier, better known by his pen name Charb, is reported to have had his own security detail. This magazine, of course, was famous for putting the Prophet Muhammad on the cover back in 2011, for which the offices was firebombed, and that's why there's been a lot of security detail following that incident as well. Now, the French leader called this massacre a terrorist attack without a doubt.
This shooting of extreme violence killed 12 people and injured several more. Greatly talented cartoonists, courageous journalists are dead. They left their mark on generations and generations of French through their influence, through their insolence, through their rare independence. Here, I want to say to them that this message of freedom, we will continue to defend it in their name.
Soon after the noontime shooting, France was put on its highest terror alert. And in that news conference, President Hollande declared that Thursday would be a day of mourning for the country. Now, on Wednesday, a group of 2 or 3 masked gunmen stormed an editorial meeting at the offices of Charlie Hebdo, located in Paris. It is being reported that they shot military style at the editor Charb, as well as a prominent cartoonist and several other members of that editorial meeting. Now, minutes later, at least 2 were seen leaving the building to get into a waiting black car, but they reportedly got away when they ditched that vehicle and hijacked another. Altogether, 12 are dead, including 8 journalists and 2 police officers.
Yeah, surely a very daring operation. We can see the city there on lockdown pretty much. We still don't know who was behind these attacks, but there may be links to Al-Qaeda, given the controversial covers regarding the Prophet Muhammad that this magazine had. But the world really is rallying behind France in their time of need.
Absolutely, and people in France are standing up as well. They were seen holding up signs that say, "I am Charlie Hebdo," and world leaders also reacting within hours, condemning the attack.
This horrific attack is meant to divide. We must not fall into that trap. This is a moment for solidarity around the world. We must stand strong for freedom of expression and tolerance, and stand against the forces of division and hate.
This country stands united with the French people in our opposition to all forms of terrorism, and we stand squarely for free speech and democracy. And these people will never be able to take us off those values.
And candlelight vigils were held in cities across Europe as well. Here, outside the French embassy in Berlin, some 400 people came out to show solidarity with the victims and their families. Others held up signs showing the caricature portraits of the deceased, including the magazine's co-founder, editor-in-chief, and cartoonist in their memory.
Okay, thank you very much, Eunice, and you'll be following this story for us throughout the rest of the morning. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Now, part of the tail of the crashed AirAsia flight 8501 has been found in the Java Sea. Indonesian searchers say it was found in a secondary search area, and this lends weight to theories that strong currents may have moved the debris. The head of the search team says the tail was spotted by teams involving divers and unmanned underwater vehicles. Now, it's buried in mud and it's in water that's about 30 meters deep and is believed to be, in fact, upside down. Now, finding the tail is a very significant development as it houses the black boxes, the voice and flight data recorders, which could give investigators much needed clues as to what caused this crash. 40 bodies have been recovered so far, but the authorities believe many of the 122 other people that were on board may still be strapped inside the main body of the plane. The plane was lost en route from Surabaya, Indonesia to Singapore on December 28th. Now, the Eurozone has another headache to contend with now. The currency bloc has officially slumped into deflation for the first time in 5 years as oil prices continue to tumble. According to the European Statistics Office's end-of-year estimates on Wednesday, consumer prices dropped across the Eurozone by 0.2% in December from the same month in 2013. Now, last month's fall was mostly attributed to free-falling oil prices. Brent crude has slipped to roughly $50 a barrel, having plunged more than half since last year's high of $115. Analysts say declining oil prices are expected to increase business and consumer spending, but it does have a dark side. A long period of falling prices can choke the already quite weak economy, and it proves very difficult to get out of. Now, Korea may be facing its own deflationary woes of its own because falling global oil prices have some analysts here concerned it could push the economy towards deflation, but Korea's finance minister is firm that that's not going to happen. Choi Kyung-hwan says the drop could help the Korean economy by bringing down prices of imported raw materials and eventually boosting domestic demand. Our Kim Ji-yeon reports.
Finance Minister Choi Kyung-hwan has dismissed concerns that falling oil prices could lead to deflation. In fact, he says the declines could actually help boost domestic demand as the prices of imports fall. At an economic ministerial meeting on Wednesday, Choi said that the decline in oil prices is fundamentally different from deflation, which occurs due to a shortage of demand rather than an oversupply. He also cited projections from 5 state-run institutes, which forecast that Korea could save $30 billion in oil import expenses if crude prices maintain an average of $63 per barrel. His remarks came amid concerns that deflation is spreading in the Korean economy, currently struggling from sluggish domestic consumption and low inflation rate increases. Some local institutions in Seoul even compare the recession in Korea to that of Japan's long-term economic slump in the 1990s. In response, the finance minister said that the government would increasingly pursue policies to make sure the benefits stemming from falling oil prices help boost domestic consumption and thus the economic recovery. Also during the meeting, Choi vowed to pursue policies that would boost financing from venture capitals and for high-tech innovative industries. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Korea and Colombia agreed on a free trade deal nearly 2 years ago, but the pact has yet to be ratified in Colombia, due mostly to the country's auto industry opposing the deal. Colombia's foreign minister was in Seoul this week to assure officials here that the deal will be finalized soon. Connie Kim has more.
Korea will soon have greater access to Colombia, the third largest Latin American market, and its population of 48 million. Wrapping up her two-day visit to Seoul on Wednesday, Colombian Foreign Minister Maria Angela Olguin met with Foreign Minister Yoon Byung-se and pledged to speed up ratification of the Korea-Colombia FTA that was signed nearly 2 years ago.
I am happy to say that our Congress approved the trade pact. Once the deal is reviewed by the Constitutional Court, the free trade agreement could be ratified in the coming months.
The holdup is mostly on the Colombian side amid concerns among the auto industry there, as a tariff on Korean automobiles will be lifted over a 10-year period. Although the current rate stands at 35%, there is still strong demand for Korean automobiles in Colombia. Of total bilateral trade in 2013, exports of Korean cars and auto parts to Colombia made up more than 80%. Olguin said the concerns within Colombia are manageable, considering that Korean automobiles that come into the country via the U.S. or Mexico come in tariff-free.
Given this situation, I believe the problem related to the auto industry's backlash can be solved.
She added that subsidiaries would be given out to the auto sector to ease concerns. Now, when the bilateral trade pact goes into effect, the Korean market will have cheaper access to Colombia's most popular export items, such as coffee, coal, and metals. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Now, President Park Geun-hye is going to lay out her vision for 2015 at her New Year's press conference, which will take place next Monday. And what will be her second time standing before Korean and foreign reporters, the president will unveil her policy direction for the year, which will focus on revitalizing the economy and boosting inter-Korean relations. There will also be a Q&A session. Now, Arirang News will be bringing you live coverage of this press conference next Monday at 10 a.m. Korea time. North Korea says activists' continued campaign of flying anti-Pyongyang leaflets across the border is hindering efforts to improve inter-Korean ties. The regime says it will refuse to hold talks with Seoul until the launches cease. Hwang Sang-hee reports.
North Korea warned South Korea on Wednesday to stop private groups from flying anti-Pyongyang leaflets across the border if it really wants to resume dialogue. The North state-run Korean Central News Agency said South Korea is challenging North Korea's sincerity for improved bilateral ties and spoiling the mood for talks by turning a blind eye to the leaflet launches. 2 days ago, a group of South Korean activists flew 600,000 leaflets that criticized the North Korean leadership. Putting an end to the leaflet campaign was one of the preconditions to North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's apparent proposal for talks in his New Year's speech. South Korea has refused to step in, saying it has no legal grounds to ban acts of freedom of expression. But Unification Ministry spokesperson Im Byung-chul said Wednesday the government will try to prevent the situation from getting out of hand.
We will cooperate with police in implementing safety measures to reduce possible dangers to the lives and property of our people.
A local court ruled Tuesday that authorities can restrict the leaflet launches if they jeopardize public safety. In October last year, North Korea opened fire across the border in an attempt to shoot down the balloons that were carrying the controversial leaflets. The Unification Ministry once again called on North Korea to accept its proposal for talks with no preconditions if it's serious about improving inter-Korean relations. Hwang Sang-hee, Arirang News.
Now, as a follow-up to Sang-hee's report there, North Korea has called on the South Korean government to plainly state its stance on the flying of leaflets, its unification aims and its joint military exercises with Washington. Pyongyang's state-run Korean Central News Agency says Seoul should be upfront with the North on all three issues. It wants the South Korean government to lay out what kind of unification it wants, as the North is deeply opposed to the idea of the South absorbing the North. Now, without mentioning President Park Geun-hye by name, Pyongyang also denounced her for telling Seoul's Unification Preparatory Committee last month to bring about meaningful change in the North. The news agency also said North Korea is keeping a close eye on South Korea's next move.
We start before the sun rises to bring you the latest stories out of Korea. We also lead the way with important global coverage. Stay on the pulse of what is happening with Daybreak.
The former vice president of Korean Air, Jo Hyun-ah, will face trial over the so-called nut rage incident. On Wednesday, prosecutors indicted Jo on charges of violating aviation safety rules, coercion and interference in the execution of duty. The 40-year-old heiress to the airline stands accused of ordering a commercial airliner to return to the gate in order to deplane the head steward after she was incorrectly served some nuts. It's also alleged that she sent company officials to the head steward's home, demanding he falsely testify about the incident before the authorities. The number of jobs in Korea's finance sector is on a downward spiral. This despite the government's continual efforts to transform the nation into one of Asia's great financial hubs. Our Ji Myung-gil reports.
Since the 1997 Asian financial crisis, the government has repeatedly set the ambitious goal of turning Korea into one of Northeast Asia's financial hubs. Yet latest government data shows the industry is in fact shrinking. Over the past 12 months alone, some 24,000 jobs have vanished from the country's financial sector. Statistics Korea said on Wednesday that the number of people working in the industry fell to 840,000, or about 3% of Korea's overall workforce. That's down nearly a half a percentage point and the lowest in 5 years. Despite the government's plans of turning the financial sector into a major growth engine, it only accounts for 5% of Korea's GDP, down from 6.5% in 2008. Industry experts attribute the decline to poor performances by stock brokerage houses that have been forced to cut back in recent years. Banks and life insurance companies have also sought mergers and acquisitions in the past year as part of restructuring aimed at sharpening their competitiveness. The job market for the financial sector does not look bright this year either. Financial analysts say that although the sector's performance will likely improve this year thanks to a steady economic recovery and the government's deregulation drive, many industry players will have to focus on overhauling their businesses to regain their competitive edge. Experts are calling on the government to speed up streamlining red tape to encourage the financial industry, to provide funds more easily to the corporate sector and reduce its reliance on providing household loans. Ji Myung-gil, Arirang News.
Now, many new gadgets are grabbing attention of tech enthusiasts around the world at this year's annual Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, but it appears the stars of this year's mega tech event are all the new cars. Our Connie Lee shows us why.
Take a look at what's driving this year's Consumer Electronics Show. Or should I say, take a look at who's driving. Well, in this self-driving F-15 Mercedes-Benz, no one is technically driving. It just carried the president of CES to the show.
You know, it's a very odd feeling to totally give up the wheel to a robot.
The car uses radar and ultrasonic sensors to drive itself.
30 years ago, I was seeing these pictures and was dreaming of these kind of cars.
This car is not only able to determine when it's safe to cross the road, it also actively tells you when it is safe to start walking across.
Blue LED lights inside the white leathered interior signal touchscreens that control light and temperature, and you can even watch movies or hold video conferences sitting on these swirling chairs. Driverless cars are getting a lot of the attention this year, with Germany's Audi arriving to Las Vegas by itself from San Francisco. However, there are other automakers emphasizing their cars and their connectivity at the show. The Hyundai automobiles on display here come along with Hyundai's BlueLink smartwatch app. The voice-activated app allows Hyundai drivers to remotely start and stop the engine, lock and unlock doors, turn on the emergency lights, or call for assistance. And BMW has debuted cars that act as their own valet. After dropping off its passengers, these connected BMWs can park themselves on command from a smartwatch.
However, the most anticipated technology for consumers may be the driverless car, which experts say could hit the market within the decade. Connie Lee, Arirang News.
And a good Thursday morning to you all as we kick things off in Formula One racing, where after several provisional schedules were released, it's confirmed now that the Korean Grand Prix will be left off in the 2015 season. Now, according to Bernie Ecclestone, the head of Formula One management, he had to include the Korean Grand Prix in the provisional schedules in order to avoid legal actions from the local organizers. And while a breach of contract lawsuit was an issue to be worried about, it's highly unlikely that a lawsuit will take place, as experts believe that the event will be left off in the 2016 calendar as well. Now, it's true that there has been less interest in figure skating here in the nation ever since the figure queen Kim Yeon-ah retired from the sport last year, but come on, it's not like NBA fans don't watch the game because Michael Jordan retired many years ago, right? Well, figure skating fans in the nation headed over to the Mokdong Ice Rink on Tuesday as the 2015 National Figure Skating Championship kicked off. Now, despite Kim Yeon-ah not competing in the event, all eyes are on Yeon-ah's kids, especially Park So-yeon, who is looking to win her first gold medal in the event. Meanwhile, on the final day of the event, Kim Yeon-ah will be on hand to give out the medals to the winners. Now, yesterday, 4 former major leaguers were voted into baseball's Hall of Fame, and 3 of them were pitchers in Randy Johnson, Pedro Martinez, and John Smoltz. But here in Korea, fans are looking forward to the 2016 Hall of Fame class, as another pitcher will be eligible for a Cooperstown for the first time. And that, of course, is Park Chan-ho, who is one of the names listed for the eligibility in 2016. Now, the 42-year-old doesn't have the kind of numbers Randy Johnson or Pedro Martinez had, but he was the first Korean player to play in the majors and holds the record for the most wins by an Asian pitcher with 124. And while fans in the nation already have their fingers crossed, experts believe that it'll be quite tough for him to get the call. Now, football, or soccer as it's called in some parts of the world, is the most popular sport in the world. But it's no secret that one of the things that taints the sport is all the diving and the, oh, I'm hurt when I'm not moments that we often see on the pitch, right? But the Asian Football Confederation plans to regulate all of that during the upcoming 2015 Asian Cup in Australia, where the officials plan to get more strict on hard tackles, simulations, and time-killing actions by the players. Meanwhile, the 2015 Asian Cup kicks off tomorrow as Korea play their first group stage match on Saturday against Oman. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Good morning, I'm Lee Ji-yeon here with your latest weather updates. Now, brutal cold will continue to blast the whole nation this morning. The lows have dropped to near -10 degrees Celsius, so be sure to dress accordingly before heading out today. Though the afternoon highs will be slightly higher than yesterday, thanks to the high pressure front, which will bring lots of sunshine to the peninsula, so skies should remain clear throughout the day. And with that in mind, let's take a closer look at the readings for today. Now, the low in Seoul is kicking off at -9, a tad lower than yesterday. Then the daytime high will climb into freezing mark, while Daegu and Gwangju should peak at 6, and Busan will reach 8 this afternoon. And as for the other regions, Jeju Island will rise to 8, while Daejeon and Dokdo will be getting up to 4 this afternoon. Now, cold snap will break starting tomorrow afternoon, so stay warm till then. That's all for Korea, and here's the international weather for viewers around the world.
Well, that's going to do it for now. Korea Today is coming up at the top of the hour, 7 a.m. Korea time. Have a great day, and we'll see you later. Goodbye.